We live in the age of society. On every side, pundits of various political and moral hues pontificate about the supposed need for a society that is caring, compassionate, moral, even Christian. They proclaim with differing degrees of real or assumed fervour that society should or ought to do this or that, and are quick to denounce as selfish those who refuse to go along with their particular panaceas. Traditional conservative moralists of the right, socialists of the left and their so-called libertarian allies, and liberals, fueled by their visions of a past or future paradise, all join in the chorus of supplication to the God of society and demand that its so-called will be done. Behind this clamour lies the mistaken belief that when individuals form a so-called society, they thereby create an organic entity to which appeals can be made and to which they are related as mere cellular parts of a whole. Such a belief has no basis in fact. So-called society is no ego which can cause, feel, or will anything. It is an abstract noun denoting a specific aggregation of individuals relating to each other for certain purposes. To claim, therefore, that such individuals are nothing but cells of an organism is a gross misuse of words. A cell cannot exist apart. An individual can, albeit at the cost of considerable discomfort and inconvenience. So-called society is thus a purely mental construct. The only concrete entity involved is the particular flesh and blood individual. It may be objected to this line of reasoning that man is, after all, a social animal. If by this is meant that each individual living in a society has a multiplicity of relations with other individuals, that is true. But if from this obvious fact the conclusion is drawn that these inter-individual relationships themselves constitute a real body with a life and demands of its own, then those who draw it are simply placing themselves on the same level as the animism of tribal people. It is no more than an empty hypostatization. Nonetheless, no belief exists which does not serve some purpose, however foolish or irrational that may be. The sociocentric myth, the belief that the individual is a mere component of an abstraction called society, is the gloss put upon the interests of those who have in mind some prescriptive ideal as to how people ought to behave. It's another spook with which to deceive the naive and the gullible. To make plain one's own interests is by no means as impressive as invoking the interests of society. And as long as one is not called upon to explain how such a disembodied entity can have interests, the myth remains intact for the future use of its beneficiaries. Against the mystique of the sociocrat stands the conscious ego of the autocrat, whose being is pivoted within, and who regards society simply as a means or instrument, not a source or sanction. The egoist refuses to be ensnared by the net of conceptual imperatives that surrounds the hypostatization of so-called society, preferring the real to the unreal, the fact to the myth. Thank you for listening, everyone. All the best.